Yes, it's time for RC Pro-Am, a racing game. And one of the best, I dare say. The title doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, though. I'm not exactly sure why they designated these cars RC, as in remote control cars, because, well, they didn't have to. It's not like they ever show anybody in the stands holding a remote controller. Or is it a remote or a controller? It's a remote control, right? But remote means, you know, from a distance, and I don't know. People tend to call them remotes, but they probably should call them controllers, right? Anyway, with your own controller that isn't remote but attached via cord to your Nintendo Entertainment System console, you control a car, or actually a pickup truck to start out, though if you play long enough you can see that vehicle transformed twice. We'll get into how that works a little later. You control it, and you control it with what's referred to as an isometric perspective. I'm no geometry expert. I don't know exactly what that means, but in layman's terms, you're looking down on the track from like an overhead diagonal. Let's say it's like the press box view if the press box was over the first base dugout. And that's how you're looking on the cars go around the track. Oh, you know what? I think we just figured out why they call it RC Pro-Am. You know, most racing games, particularly at the time, put you in the cockpit, so to speak. In the driver's seat, I guess would make more sense, but you're kind of going along for the ride. It's a first-person perspective. Well, you're not the driver in this case. You're up in the press box. So I guess that means you have a remote controller in your hand. Hey, we're smart people. We figured it out. Roll the intro. Video games, am I right? We've all been there, done that with an expansive catalog spanning generations. Companies phased in and out. Most of us have probably lost track of what all's even out there. Used to be we all worked off the same library, the titles rolling off our tongues like letters of the alphabet. It was the time of the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it was rad. There were tall tales and urban legends, rumors of what that next impossible-to-reach level might look like, codes and secrets that all sounded too good to be true. And then that one kid who claimed he had beaten it already. And every game left a legacy, its imprint so enduring that the mere mention stirs up emotions in us all. This is All That's Fit for 8 Bits, a tonally upbeat journey through the original NES library. And I'm Scott White. Now, this isometric viewpoint may have been innovative at the time, but I don't think that's really the key to this game's success, or why it sold so well in its day, or why it's remembered now as one of the best games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Appearing on top 50, top 100 lists. Some people probably put it in the top 20 even. I don't know where it ranked for me personally, but I know it gets a lot of play in my house because it does exactly what I want a Nintendo game to do in the present day. And that's just fire up, give me some quick thrills without too much of a time commitment. I don't need anything immersive. I don't need a save feature. I don't need strategy guides. I just want to be entertained for 20 minutes. RC Pro-Am is accessible, thrilling, and fun, and that's why it's withstood the test of time. Better yet, because it sold so well in its day, there are plenty of copies available out there. You can get it for $5 on eBay. It's a must for any NES collection. There's simply no excuse not to have it, particularly since it's one you may find yourself actually playing. The British video game developer Rare Limited kind of burst onto the scene with this game, as did composer David Wise of Donkey Kong Country fame. Not a lot of musical tracks in this game, and what's there is pretty short. Usually just some sort of like 15-second fanfare to mark an achievement in the game. But it's all very memorable, beginning with the title theme. Yeah, there you go. Those first few notes kind of remind me of when you turn the ignition on the car and then it just cruises from there. Even this one's only 40 or so seconds long, but how could you not hum along with it? It's just energizing. And then you hit the start button and you're taken to the track condition screen, which you're probably not going to pay attention to. I mean, It's not like there's any pre-planning you could do. You find out the track conditions when you're driving the track. But beyond that, I mean, you're just probably caught up in the pure horsepower of the theme that's playing there on the track condition screen. It's just very masculine. You're really revving that engine now and ready to go. But of course, it's a remote control car, so none of these analogies even make sense. Then again, was David wise to the whole RC theme going on? Maybe he didn't know at the time. It's worth noting that the original title of this game was Pro-Am Racing, so maybe the whole RC concept was introduced later. Who knows? Anyway, you get your pulse pounding there by finding out the track conditions, a screen that incidentally also reveals what upgrades your current vehicle has already received. It's not terribly important, but we can get into that later. And then you're thrust right into your first race with just a few notes. Sounds reminiscent of a car horn, actually, that coincides with your car flashing on the screen. The game is indicating to you that you are in control of the red car, or actually the red pickup truck to start out. No, you do not have any say in the matter. Red is you. You are red. You're playing alone. There's nobody else controlling the other cars. It's just you, the red one. That's you. No kids, I'm not going to be the blue car this time or the green car. I'm the red car. Get over it. Oh, and by the way, you're not playing with me either. This is purely a one-player game. Nobody is going to hold a controller and control anything but the red car. Have I made myself perfectly clear? Good. And we're off, holding down the B button to accelerate and to continue the forward motion. There's really no need to depress the B button at any point during your race. Yes, there will be some tight hairpin turns to be made here, but alright, so this is really the key to what makes the game a success. The way these vehicles handle. It's unlike anything else that was around at the time, and even today it is super fulfilling. The way you can just make the cars kind of, what's the word for it? Drift, I guess. All four tires, kind of traveling sideways almost, the car sliding on the four wheels in the way, in a way they can't roll. You're kind of sliding sideways to get around those turns while still at maximum acceleration. The tires are squealing, the kids are crying, the women are oohing and eyeing, and it's all the work of your hands the way you're making this car drift through this track like it's not even a problem. Now, I should confess, there's a bit of a learning curve. You're not used to the handling right away since it is kind of different and it's easy to overdo a turn. You end up having your car going the wrong way because you just held it down too long, or it's easy to just bounce off the side of the track. The first time I played this, I was probably about 9 years old, 10 years old, and I was having so much trouble getting through the first track that I just kind of held down the B button and didn't bother to steer at all. Just had my car bounce off the sides all the way around the track to see if that would be enough to get it done. And by the way, it is. I can confirm that you will survive the first track that way. You'll finish in third place, which is the minimum of what you have to achieve to move on. And you'll get to see the second track. You'll feel no sense of accomplishment and will immediately have to face the reality that it's not going to work anymore. If you want to continue in this game, you're going to actually have to learn to steer. But this is something you should look forward to because steering in this game is so fulfilling when you're able to make those turns at top speed. The isometric perspective also makes for a bit of a learning curve because even though you're not the view you're seeing of the game isn't from the driver's seat, the way the car is turning is as if you're in the driver's seat. So, the car could be moving up on the screen and the right direction on the D-pad turns the car right. The car could be moving down the screen and the right direction on the D-pad turns the car left. I mean, I guess operating a remote control car is the same way too. You know what? The more I think about it, the more this RC Pro-Am name makes sense. I'm going to need to start this whole thing over. I suppose maybe we should get into the objective of the game, and the objective, seeing as it's a racing game, is to win the race. No doy. Well, no, actually, it's less to win the race than just to survive to the next race. I mentioned already that you have to be one of the top 3 placing cars to move on to the next race, which is less of an achievement than it sounds, seeing as there are a grand total of 4 cars on the track. You control the red one. There's also a blue car, a green car, and an orange car. Now, some people refer to this as the yellow car, the infamous yellow car, but in every TV I've ever owned, the default settings on that TV have displayed it as a pale orange for me. So I've come to know it as the orange car. I'm not about to change it now. You people who call it a yellow car are colorblind and probably need to do something about it. Now, if you do survive the race when it comes to an end, you will hear this memorable fanfare. And then you'll be shown a shot of the trophy room, which lasts all of this long. I hope you weren't wanting to snap any pictures or read any of the inscriptions. There's simply no time for that. No, it's on to the next race. And on and on it goes. So you can see why each of those themes would stand out to you. They're all so short, and there isn't that many of them, but you hear them over and over again, and you know exactly when they're going to play. The trophy room theme is the one I have the most fun with. It's such a brief interruption in the gaming, and basically all it is a black screen. It shows your point total in the middle, and for each race you complete, you get a gold, silver, or bronze trophy, depending on where you placed, and these trophies just line up one after another as you progress through the game. But the trophies don't all look alike. That wouldn't be fun. Of course, any trophy room would have various shapes presented therein. So I think it's fun to kind of announce the trophy you just received to the tune of the trophy room. For example, here's a trophy, it is a wrench. Or maybe, here's a trophy, it is a man. There's also, here's a trophy, it is players. And even, here's a trophy, it's a football. That one's not even a football. I don't know exactly what to call it, but I recommend you do this for a long and fruitful life. On second thought, I don't know that I can claim it's fruitful. It's kind of dorky, in fact. I'll just say results may vary, just like the trophies do. Impeding your goal of finishing in the top 3 are various hazards, only, let's say 2 of which are a real concern. The hazards you encounter are dependent on what track you're on, and there are 24 different tracks in the game. They follow the same order. When you complete them all, it just repeats. Each of them has their own hazards. That's what the track condition screen at the start of the race is all about. They give you some inkling of what kind of hazards you're about to encounter. There may be puddles of water littered throughout. It shows up as light blue, and really all it does is slow you down when you drive over it. It makes a little sloshing noise. Sometimes it might have a rain cloud going back and forth over it. I really don't know what that's about, but it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes the track condition screen might say it's a fast track. What that means is there are these patches of red that you can drive over, and it'll make this high-pitched noise and kind of rocket your car forward faster than its natural engine speed can take it. And you might see some of these, you might see 4 in a row of these lined up. You're of course aiming to hit them all one after another, because chances are the computer-controlled cars are going to do just that. Now you might not see this as a hazard, maybe a benefit, but again, it seems like the computer has an advantage with those red speed zippers. They come up so suddenly that you might miss the first one, and if you miss the first one, there's a good chance you're going to miss all of them. Even if you don't miss the first one, you might hit it at kind of a funny angle that doesn't immediately propel you to the second one. And either way, these seem to serve as more just another way for you to fall behind the computer. You can use them to your advantage, but like the puddles of water, I mostly just find them annoying. What'll kill you are the oil slicks. They look the same, but instead of being light blue, they are black. And what happens when you run over them is a spin out. A spin out where if you don't regain control before you hit the side of the track, you will crash and your car will crumble into pieces. You don't forfeit the race or anything, but there's a delay of a few seconds before you're put back on the track, your car magically reassembled, and you can continue having to accelerate all over again. It gives your opponents a chance to pull ahead. And while no single crash is insurmountable, if you string a few of them together, if you skid out and crash another time or two before you catch up to the other three cars, then you may be sunk. Now, once you get a handle on the steering, those oil slicks are about the only things that are going to bring you down. So as you might imagine, there can be a lot of them at times. Track 12 in particular stands out as just slick central. I mean, I've already said there's no reason ever to depress the B button. Just continue to have the pedal on the metal the whole way through the track. And a track like this, though, where you actually have to avoid those puddle encounters, there are times you might want to take your foot off the gas. The game is so fast-paced, the way the cars move over this track, that your reaction time once an oil slick appears on the screen is next to none. You have to be positioned correctly before it even shows up to avoid it, which may seem kind of cheap, I guess, but look, none of the races are one lap. You remember, or at least you should remember the next time around that, an oil slick is coming up there. I better position my car up here instead. And look, sometimes your focus is going to be on something else and you'll forget to do that. In fact, most of the time that'll be true. But the game is less about avoiding the pitfalls than recovering from them. And your best weapon for doing this is a literal weapon. Beginning on track 2, you can pick up projectiles to fire at your opponents. Shades of Mario Kart, anyone? The preferred of these projectiles is the forward projectile, which is indicated by a red and yellow looking rocket, or like a firecracker that you would expect to say Acme on the side in a Roadrunner cartoon. You tap the A button and it fires in a straight line, whatever direction your car is facing. Obviously the perfect tool for playing catch up, for taking out your opponents as you near them so that you can suddenly jolt ahead. You hit them with one of these, the effect is the same as if you skidded out and hit a wall. Their car falls to pieces, they have to wait a few seconds to get going again. The other projectile, it comes out the back. It moves a little slower, the range is a little less, the images depicted on the screen are a little more colorful and explosive. Yeah, this is what I refer to as the butt bomb. It's a bomb that comes out of your car's butt. Again, I was 9 or 10 years old the first time I played this. The butt bombs, which are indicated by, I guess what you'd call the trigger of a fuel pump, the part you pick up and actually insert in your car, that icon is what you pick up to get butt bombs. Yeah, they can be a little problematic. Obviously, the utility is limited. You can't as easily use them to catch up, but as long as there's enough race left and you avoid more accidents, you always do catch up. So once you catch up, the butt bombs help you put a little distance between you and your opponent so you can stay caught up. And actually, there is a way that you can kind of it's kind of an advanced technique, but if you swerve the car right as you're passing your opponent, you can fire a butt bomb at them right then. It's pretty fun when you do pull it off, but obviously the rockets are better. So can't you just avoid picking up the butt bombs altogether, stick with the rockets? Well, it's the same issue that you had with the oil slicks where, you don't exactly know what's coming ahead of you on the track and you're just going to accidentally run into it, which, isn't so bad. It increases your ammunition total by 5 whenever you pick up either one, the rocket icon or the fuel pump icon. There are individual ammunition pickups as well. And it's worth noting that the ammunition, the total amount you have, transfers between the rocket and the fuel pump, whichever you've happened to pick up most recently. So having more is always a good thing. As the game progresses, as the tracks get harder and harder, as the opponents drive better and better, you need all the help you can get. Now, there are other pickups. I mentioned they show up on the track condition screen before the start of every race, and they come in 3 forms. There's turbo acceleration, which is pretty self-explanatory. There are hotter engines for a higher top speed. And then there are super sticky tires for increased traction, better maneuvering. Now, for every version of vehicle you have, you can bank 4 of these items. 4 of each type of upgrade, I should say. I don't notice a huge difference, personally. The main thing I notice is that when you drive over one of these items, pick it up on the track, you get an immediate burst of speed right when it happens, and then your car goes back to normal, more or less. I mean, I suppose if you got the higher engine speed, maybe that would be a little higher, but it's just that immediate burst. There's some gratification there. But it's nothing like picking up ammunition. Oh, well, it turns out we happen to have an expert in ammunition here with us today. Or, well, maybe I'm stereotyping, but straight from Texas, Hank Hill of King of the Hill has some words he'd like to say. Take it away, Hank.
Hello, I'm here to tell you about the Pro-Am coming to Arlen, Texas this April. They're not real cars, but remote control like the ones the teenagers use. Isn't that right, Bobby? Bobby? Oh, God. Dang it, Bobby. I said no video games. I swear that, boy. Well, maybe I should pick up a controller and take it for a test drive. That vehicle has some giddy-up to it, I tell you what. Is that gasoline in its tank or propane? Somebody put heavy artillery in the roadway. I'm just gonna press this here red button and... Wait, no, not the oil. Whoa! Dang it, Bobby, getting me sucked into this gobbledygook. Games are for serious people like Coach Tom Landry. Sticky tires? Well, those should come in handy, I tell you what. I should get me a set of them at the Megalomart. They just gave me this trophy for 3rd place. No wonder this generation has no respect for a hard day's work. I've seen enough. There's nothing in this here video game to make it an adequate substitute for actual racing. And if I catch it in my house again, so help me God, the whole Sega or whatever goes with it. They don't even have anyone holding that checkered flag, it's just waving on its own. Well, if that's not satanic, I don't know what is.
Okay, Hank, thank you for your thoughtful words. I couldn't have put it better myself. You know, Hank does bring up a good point about the checkered flag when the race does come to the end. It's just waving there all by itself like an idiot. Nobody's holding it. It's weird. And there are a couple of weird things going on graphically. I mean, maybe that is one area where this game falls short. The one that comes to mind is that the wheels of the cars being driven, they don't actually move. The graphic is just stagnant and moving along the track. But I only really noticed it on this last playthrough I just did in putting together this review. The game's so fast-paced that you just don't notice things like that. Now, what determines the end of the race, which is signaled by this theme, is the first car to finish the designated number of laps. It's not when your car itself crosses the finish line. Obviously, if you're first, that marks the end of the race. but you do need to have a glancing eye on the graphic at the bottom of the screen that shows an overhead view of the full track and 4 colored dots on it, obviously representing the positions of the cars on that track. Because while you may be duking it out with some other car for third place halfway through the final lap, one car may have sped far ahead of the others and be on the verge of crossing the finish line. And that car, in all likelihood, is the orange car. Yes, the infamous orange car. Apparently, it has a bit of a reputation on the interwebs. Certainly, I noticed in all my playthroughs over the years that when you progress far enough, there comes a point when the orange car just seems faster than all the others, way faster. Like you have no hope of ever getting first place again, which is fine because, you only need to get third to keep going, but it's a little frustrating, especially in the sort of scenario I just laid out. Well, I only came to discover why exactly that happens in doing my research for this game. Apparently, if you get to using your weaponry too much, taking down the other cars, you rely on that crutch heavily on a certain track, at some point, the orange car goes straight yellow. No, I don't mean it changes colors again. It's not the yellow car. It's orange. It gets scared and takes off like a rocket, reaching the unmatchable speed of 127 miles per hour. Your own top speed, in case you're wondering, is 103. If that orange car happens to be on the screen with you when that moment arrives, you'll hear this sound. And it's like, what just got into him? Well, now you know. He's scared because you brought a bazooka to a foot race and he don't want to die. And I hear nothing will move you faster than your life depending on it. Let's say such a scenario does play out. You think you have half a lap to go and just landed a shot that will put you ahead of the third place car in what's sure to earn you a fleeting glimpse at the trophy room. But then you hear this. The race has ended before you had a chance to move into your deserved spot. The next thing you're going to hear then is this. Game over, man. Game over. Oh, but not really game over. Look, a continue screen. Well, we're not going to let that counter count down. Let's hit start and fire up this bad boy again. Yeah. Now we're talking. Oh, the same thing just happened. All right, we got it this time. Okay, all right, you've had your fun, but we could do this all day, right? Oh no! 2 continues, that's it? Yeah, that is it. Now, sometimes you might get faked out, and the game over music might immediately be followed by this triumphant theme. Oh, I won something! This is great! So many people to thank, I don't know where to begin. Oh, look what I've won. A spot on the high scores list. Oh, you really know how to twist the knife there. All I get to do now is enter my initials, and since there's no battery backup, it's not even going to save the score. What's the point? I don't know. My initials being SEW, though. I mean, you know what letter is right next to the W, so I'd like to have some fun. Back in the day. Here, let me just bounce this cursor on over to the W. Oh no, look, I just overshot it by 1. It was always good for a laugh among adolescent boys, but of course, podcast audiences are too serious for that. This brings me to what may be the game's biggest shortcoming. I mentioned the graphics are nothing special, but beyond that, there really isn't an end goal. There are side goals, for instance, upgrading your car. I made mention you start out driving a red pickup truck, but that car can change twice depending on how long it takes you to pick up 8 letters that spell out Nintendo. There's 1 letter available on every track. So by the end of the 8th race, presuming you survive it, you'll hear this, possibly followed by this. See how it's counting off each of the 8 letters, and then after a quick visit to the trophy room, a new race starts, and whoa! You're in a Jeep now. Or is it a van? Vans don't race, do they? They're for transporting children. Or musical gear. Prisoners? Well, clearly not for racing. When do you actually get a race car? Well, that's the second time you spell out Nintendo, so at earliest, you'll be on your 17th race. I don't know about you, but I never really make it that far. Oh, I've seen it through Game Genie, the video game enhancer and skills diminisher. I've seen it happen. I know it does. But I never make it that far, so maybe that's enough of a carrot for me. But it's still missing that ultimate carrot. You can't beat the game. You can just make it harder and harder on yourself until you eventually reach a point where the game beats you. And normally, that's no bueno. I think I've made my disdain for the old high score achievement well known. That's not what I'm playing for. I want closure. But sometimes I just want cheap thrills. And RC Pro-Am consistently provides them. The controls are so tight, the play so fast-paced, that any little misstep, just taking a corner wrong, can feel like it's of huge significance. The reason between winning or losing, and just like you get the thrill of a comeback win when you happen to catch the blue car lagging around the turn, fire that rocket, destroying him just in time to get yourself into qualifying position right before you hear that checkered flag sounding, so is the disappointment of defeat when you skid into the sidewall and fall apart just in time for that green car to pass you. You have to concentrate on every race right up until the end because your fate can change in a split second. The number of races that feel like they give you just enough time to fight your way back from a horrible mistake, gritting your teeth the whole way as you pray you have enough ammunition to make it count, all while navigating that tricky corner and remembering where they put that oil slick that set you back in the first place. You're white-knuckling this controller, unable to blink for 2-minute spurts of pure exhilaration. And I'm here for it. So much that whenever I hear people talk about best racing games, I can't help but pop my head in and sing this one's praises. That's right. Wait there, I need to tell you so much about the RC Pro-Am. Your car's painted like strawberry jam. Your palms sweaty like inside a clam. Your stress level like during exams. Forget first place, just finish the race without getting shrapnel in your face. Sharp turns, road burns, trophies are earned and upgrades. But bombs, mad moms, sitting out prom to play it. A quick speed burst when you hit the red. How's the orange car so far ahead? Been 3 races since last time I led. I probably should be going to bed. Oil slick, I'm spinning and crashing, and now I'm dead.